They told me if I got my hand on the doorknob. You know the law, right?
Here's where you get it.
Hey, everybody. Can anybody see here? I got my hand on the doorknob, and he's trying to tow my car away.
El vato dice, bye, bye.
She saw it. Hey.
Bye.
No, hey. This is my automobile. Hey. You see me? Bye.
Oh, brother, if you don't pay your bills, you can't keep your car.
You're not going to take my car.
All right, sweetheart, what do you want?
In the car because they can't take it with us in it.
Get in that car. Ronnie, get in the truck. Hey, Katie.
Get in the car. Get in the car.
Exactly.
Get in the car.
Ho. Stop! I'm here! Hey! You see me? I know you see. Hey! You see my head on the knob, right? You test me, right? Hey! This is my car!
From a simple repossession to 4 people to the car.
What you gonna do?
The other option is we can start dragging it down the driveway and see if it scares them out. Drag it. Let them at least think we're going to take it with them in it.
Take it, Ronnie. Go, son.
Why did you guys leave us alone?
Shake him down.
Good evening and welcome to Business 101. I'm your host, Allison Sheeler. On tonight's breaking news report, we will be discussing the ethical dilemma facing the towing industry, witnessed from the clips earlier. Is the towing industry being perceived properly for the services and parking regulations? While the industry provides multiple services for customers, the service that receives the most misconception is when vehicles are being towed away for breaking a parking regulation, which is written in a private property contract. These regulations simply may be parking in a wrong location and overstaying the limit permitted to park. I spoke with Fred Sheeler, CEO of Henry's Wrecker Service, to learn more about the industry and the process of these regulations given to the community of drivers.
The towing industry is a service-related industry, just like the restaurant business. We provide a service to customers. Customers pay us for that service. Sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're not happy to see us. We also provide service not only to drivers, but to private property owners also. If you own a building or an apartment complex and you only want certain people allowed to park on your property, we provide that service by making sure that only those authorized to park on the property are allowed to park on the property. Anyone who's unauthorized on the property with their vehicle gets towed. The process of private property impounding is we meet with the property owner, we come to an agreement, which is a contract, on what he or she wants us to enforce on their property. And then with that contract, we patrol the property, or it's a call-in request, and we remove the vehicles when we're told to remove them. Most drivers in the public can view our industry not happily. Most of the time, nobody likes getting their car towed off of private property. Nobody likes their car being impounded by the police or local governments. So what we're doing on a more global sense, I have been participating along with about 10 other tow companies nationally across the United States. We have formed the American Institute of Recovery Association, and we're looking to raise the standards of our industry to make sure that everyone is playing by the same set of rules and at the same time protecting the motoring public and making sure they have rights when their car does get towed. Doing all these things, I am hoping that the motoring public understands more about our industry, the risks we take out on the highway and our drivers take out on the highway every day, along with understanding that they do have rights so that the bad apples in my industry get pushed aside and go out of business and are no longer existent.
After interviewing Fred Sheeler, I was able to understand how the industry works and the measures the industry takes to ensure that customers know the process of how the towing companies operate and what they are doing to negate the bad perception perceived by the public. That perhaps maybe the real problem in the dilemma is not the towing industries making changes for the better, but the public not accepting these changes. I then decided to take my researching further and interview people that would be customers of the towing industry and get their perspective on the dilemma.
Well, I think they're good for the most part, but sometimes when they're too strongly enforced, like when you park somewhere for 2 hours and you come back at 2 hours and 1 minute and then you have a ticket, that's kind of messed up a little bit. There should be a little bit of leeway.
I think that they're really good because I believe that people would just park anywhere they want if we didn't have parking regulations and they didn't fear that their cars would be towed, so I'm glad that they're enforced. And then I think that sometimes they get kind of excessive, like Sarah said, because sometimes there's like an institution that has a lot of other institutions around, and that one institution like blocks so many spots for like that place only, and a lot of times it's like sometimes more spots than they actually need, you know, and then you can't even park there and it's all empty, and then it really just makes me mad.
Okay.
I think it really depends on the circumstance, because if there were like explicit signs there and then I knew I was taking a chance, I would have like expected it. But if there's no signs and then I just walk back to my car and then it wasn't there, I'd be so mad. I'd probably file a lawsuit or something. Probably.
I'd just probably be really mad at myself and be like, oh wow, I'm really stupid. So then, you know, I really stupid, but you know, if I, you know, parked wrong or improperly, then I'll just have to pay the fine and I'll own up to it and pay it.
Yeah, one time I got in a car crash and then I had to get my car towed, and then basically this big truck with this attachment on the back of it wasn't even that big of a truck, it was like a regular pickup truck, just came and towed my car, and the guy looked really incompetent. He was smoking a cigarette because the police officer told me that sometimes the tow truck drivers get kind of happy with the cars, if you know what I mean.
Okay, interesting. JD, have you?
No.
And if your car was to be towed, what kind of experience were you expecting? Would you expect something like Sarah's or something different?
No, I would expect something different. I'd expect someone who is very, you know, professional and courteous. I would probably have taken out my values on my car just because that's just a general rule. I mean, even when I take it to an auto shop or whatever, not because I don't distrust anyone. It's just, you know, to be safe for me. But yeah, I'd expect him to just be really good, you know, be really fast as possible and get me to where I need to be.
From listening to Sarah's and JD's perspective, there's more that can be taken away from the dilemma. Though both being different genders and races, well, for the most part, they agreed and believed that the towing services are more helpful than what is perceived. Except for in Sarah's case when she had experienced her car being towed. Even though Sarah's experience was not due to parking regulations, we can still learn from it. That the statement made from the police officer should not have been made. Instead, he should have trusted the tow truck driver and not make assumptions based on his appearance. Though in the end, the type of service she did receive was not acceptable at all. The type of service that should have been expected is the kind JD mentioned and the kind that the American Institute of Recovery is trying to promote and have become the normal standard. Even though, according to Fred, it has been, just not regulated like it's supposed to be, to get rid of the quote-unquote bad apples of the industry. If the towing industry and the customers are taking the right step to change the perception, why is the change not being made? This can be because the culture of society is not ready to fully adapt to this change. Though not all customers, aka the full percentage of community of drivers, does not view this industry as negatively as it did before, it is still very relevant that the industry is improperly viewed. The media clips showed at the beginning of tonight's episode are part of the reason why society is not ready to fully adapt to the change. The media is still holding on to the improper perception for the pure joy of entertainment. The media does not tell the full story of the industry. The countless laws and paperwork that is put into the contracts, the various training certifications required to even be part of the industry, and most importantly, the various associations, such as the American Institute of Recovery, setting regulations on their own industry and making sure that their rights and their customers' rights are being spoken.